Okay, you're going to love this. You know Chris Bryant, the Labour MP who usually has a meltdown over anything that happens, and he's also extremely rude in the House of Commons. He wanted to be the Speaker of the House of Commons for some reason. All these issues around the Boris Johnson witch hunt and the Privileges Committee and Harriet Harman has raised a lot of questions about the legitimacy of these committees and the impartiality of the civil service and the whole of the establishment. And Chris Bryant went on Times Radio for an interview, and the interviewer Callum was simply asking very simple questions to hold him to account and saying, well, some people might say this was a stitch up, or some people might say Harriet Harman or Sue Gray were compromised. What do you think? Chris Bryant had a complete hysterical rant and then decided not really to answer the question. Let's go.
You can kind of see his point, can't you? Harriet Harman, on the day that Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak were fined by police for attending a brief birthday party in the Cabinet Room, tweeted, PM and Chancellor, complete disregard for rules vital to protect health of others, unspeakable, disgraceful. In a further tweet, she appeared to prejudge, actually, the case that she was then set to rule on. She said...
Okay, you want to have this conversation with Harriet, not with me, I think, really.
Well,
there you go. That's the beginning of the fight back. It's not really about Harriet, because it's about, firstly, you were part of that committee. You were chairing that committee, and you gave it to Harriet Harman. That's the whole point. Also, apologies, I have to pause every now and then because of copyright issues. It's not really by choice.
You've obviously got a view. I thought you were a broadcaster. I hadn't realised that you were an opinionist.
Excuse me, Chris. I don't have a view. I'm putting these comments to you.
You clearly do. You very clearly do.
I'm putting these comments to you to try to understand why Boris Johnson feels so aggrieved and why you think actually justice has been done here. That's the point that I'm trying to get at.
You're not.
He is. I mean, look at her face. It's simply about the fact that when you have journalists or broadcasters for the first time doing their jobs properly, the political left have a meltdown because they're not used to it. They're used to the BBC and Sky News. They're not used to being held to account.
No, I am. I seriously am, and I'm trying to ask you.
I don't think you're a serious journalist at all.
Gosh,
I think you just want to pump out Boris Johnson's agenda. You've been played beautifully by a man who John Curtis has just told you is thought by only 5% of people in the country don't think that he lied to Parliament. And you have a committee that was advised by a former High Court judge on its processes. It was entirely fair. I don't know whether you attended it, whether you saw the oral hearings. He was given 5 opportunities to correct the record and decided not to. So the point that the committee was trying to investigate from the very beginning, I'm amazed that some people didn't understand this, was first of all whether he lied to Parliament, which doesn't necessarily mean that he intended to mislead Parliament.
There we go. They said it. We've been saying over the last couple of few days, that's the whole problem that Boris Johnson had. That's why he resigned. I'm not even supporting Boris Johnson. I'm not even defending the man, but this is just about procedure. The committee, firstly, it was a kangaroo court because it was not legal. It's not a legal court. It doesn't have those powers. It wasn't investigating whether he purposefully lied or misled. It was even, they said, well, he accidentally misled. So but that's not really guilt, is it? I mean, we know he's a liar, but in this situation, they didn't find any evidence.
It's about whether he corrected the record once he knew that he had misled it. It's about whether he was reckless about the truth.
He already said
It's about whether he should have known better. And how culpable he was. And it seems as if the committee, which has a Conservative majority on it, for all Boris Johnson's rantings, and went through a thorough process as agreed by the former High Court judge, Ernest Ryder, and every lawyer I've spoken to said it seemed a perfectly sensible parliamentary process for dealing with this matter.
Okay, sorry, again, I have to interrupt this. 2 things he said. He said it's about him accepting it was reckless or acknowledged. He already did. Again, I am not defending Boris Johnson. I'm not a supporter, but this is just logic. He already said, well, yes, it was reckless. And yes, I just wasn't briefed properly. I didn't intend to do it. I apologize. If he really cared about that, he's already done that. And he said, well, the committee was majority Conservative, but they were all against Boris Johnson. And just because they're Tories doesn't mean they love Boris Johnson. Oh.
Just if I may finish the point that I was trying to make before your quite unnecessary personal attack on me, my point that I was going to make was that Harriet...
Well, you're making an attack on Harriet Harman.
I'm not. I'm trying to ask you a question. My point that I was going to make all of those minutes ago, was about Harriet Harman losing the battle of perception on this almost instantly. And that is so important for due process, and it strikes me that that wasn't considered fully.
Yep. Simple.
Well, you've come to your view. There you are. You should
Do you
go
want to
on
respond
as
to that at all,
the
or
interview.
not?
Sorry?
Do you want to respond to that? Did Harriet Harman lose the perception battle here?
It's your view.
It's not my view, Chris. I'm asking you a question. Did she lose the
You're not
perception
asking me a
battle?
question. You're holding a view.
Did she lose the perception battle instantly?
You think she did.
I'm asking you if you think she did.
But you're not, are you?
I literally
said
just
she'd lost
did.
it.
I literally just asked you.
You literally just didn't. You literally said that she had lost the perception battle.
Just cut. just
This is thoroughly dissatisfying.
just give up. It's just not. You're not going to get anywhere with him. It's bad. But as I said, my personal opinion is, I think the fundamental issue and the flaw in the system is that for years and years, these people have not been challenged properly by the likes of BBC News, Channel 4 News, Sky News. Not to say that Times Radio is some sort of rebellious organisation. It's still part of the Murdoch empire. But there are shows on Times Radio. I mean, I don't think anybody listens to Times Radio. But there are shows on Times Radio, on Talk TV, on GB News that try to at least do a better version of broadcast journalism. But these politicians are just not used to it. That's why they tend to become hysterical when they get very, very simple questions. Anyway, let me know what you think. I'm Mahyar Tousi, and we are the media.